Missouri became synonymous with police violence against unarmed black men after Michael Brown was shot and killed by Officer Darren Wilson. It ignited furious protests and had politicians, including President Obama, vowing to fight for justice. But the former Ferguson police chief claims the truth about what happened is much different than what the media has been spinning. Please welcome author of Policing Ferguson, Policing America, Thomas Jackson. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
I read your book cover to cover.
Did you?
As I often do.
Thank you.
And in this book, you state that the media, politicians, protesters misrepresented Ferguson. But I really need you to help me understand this because I was embedded in Ferguson when I worked for CNN. And I can tell you that dozens of people came up to me unprompted and told me about their individual experiences with harassment by the police, excessive force by the police, fining by the police. I don't think they all were lying to me.
Okay, so first of all, you came into Ferguson after the violent protests started.
Oh, no. I was there before then. Yeah.
Okay, because they started right away. But what struck me about the narrative that came out afterwards was it was so much different than the Ferguson that I knew. Ferguson, at the time, had 9 neighborhood associations. It's just a city about 6 square miles, 20,000 people. So I attended those meetings. The councilman attended those meetings. My community officers attended those meetings. So we were completely accessible to those citizens. I went to all the council meetings. I was at the farmers market on a regular basis.
Did you hear their complaints then?
When people complained, and we investigated every complaint that came in to our office, and they're documented, and I even would write back to the complainant and let them know what the outcome of the complaint was. And another thing I'd really like to point out is Lacey Clay. You know him. He's one of the senior members of Congress. He's my congressman. He's Ferguson's congressman. He came and walked in our 4th of July parades regularly, shook hands with our residents. He's been to my office. I've been to his office. We work together on issues involving juvenile diabetes and so forth. So he never said anything to me about this kind of what's described in the report.
Yeah, because the Justice Department, it's a 102-page report, and they found that there was an invasive racist culture. Didn't you see that as the boss? There were only 53 police officers in your department.
Right. They made those allegations, and there's a group called Truth Ferguson that's trying to find out exactly who they talked to, not necessarily, take out anonymous people, but try to find out more about where they got their information. Because this report was only 6 months long. The final decision came out at the same time the grand jury, or the Justice Department decision, or the FBI, I'm sorry, decision came out about Ferguson. So, and Sanford, Florida is still open.
Well, let me ask you this, because I didn't get a real clear vision for it, so I just want to know, why was Michael Brown shot?
Well, that's actually been well documented, and I wasn't there when it happened.
So why was he shot? What was he doing that got him shot? It wasn't the robbery, because we found out about that later. Why was he shot on the street?
Okay, well,
6 times.
According to the FBI and the grand jury investigation were both extensive. It was a confrontation that he initiated with a police officer, and that he tried to disarm the police officer, and then again came at the officer aggressively. That's what the reports bear out. I wasn't there.
Okay, but you left him in the street for
4 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah. And you talk about the narrative, but the narrative is started with this person laying in the street like a dog and not being covered, not being dealt with. So the narrative, I don't think you can just blame the media for the narrative of Ferguson, because there are things that seem to give some credence to what people were saying.
Sure, I don't just blame anybody. That was a horrible thing to see.
Yeah.
But it was a horrible thing to see. But there's protocols that take place when there's an officer-involved shooting, and I turned that investigation over to the big police department in the region, and their crime scene detectives took 45 minutes to get there because they were on a scene in another end of the county.
Right.
And then, of course, while they were processing the scene, shots rang out behind us. So then it became an unsecure scene. So from there, you know, you've got to resecure the scene. And it sounds like I'm making excuses. I'm not. I'm just explaining why it took so long, and it was a horrible thing to see.
Thomas, I actually do understand some of the media role in this, how it was problematic. I was working in news at the time, and I remember being at home and hearing Black Lives Matter protesters picking up on the hands up, don't shoot,
right,
and that becoming a rallying cry. And when the investigation was conducted, the Department of Justice and the FBI, it was concluded that that hands up, don't shoot moment didn't happen as many in media portrayed it from the get-go. How do you feel about that when you hear hands up, don't shoot being, has that record been corrected in people's minds, in other words?
In some, but I think there's a lot of people that it was surprising to me that were willing to believe that that happened. You know, that an unarmed man was shot down at noon in a densely populated area while he was surrendering. But this,
because
it
does
this
happen.
didn't happen here. And but the thing is that this hands up, don't shoot went out over social media really quickly, and which hits basically the world. So there we were, not knowing, and at the time we didn't understand the effect that social media has on stories like this. So that story went out all over the world, and we were never able to really get in front of it. And we tried to explain, there's a process that goes on here, and we're going to do the process. I turned the investigation over to another department to investigate, and we were going to follow that process. But unfortunately for us, so many young people and so many millennials and so on and so forth only get their news through social media, or almost exclusively get it. So, and we weren't prepared to communicate on that level.
Do you know what hands up, don't shoot means to most people?
Yes, I do.
What do you think it means?
Police brutality.
No, that's not what it means. It's actually, calm down, y'all. Just calm down. It's what, at least for me, it's what our parents say, hands up. When you put your hands up, you're basically saying don't shoot. So hands up, don't shoot doesn't mean that that's necessarily what Michael said. That is a way to let you know as a police officer. That's their way of letting you know as a police officer, Dr. Schiff. That's what that means.
And exactly. And I talk about this often on our show. That's what Black mothers teach their kids, their sons, because we are afraid of what can happen to them. I have a 14-year-old, he's 6 foot tall, and I am afraid, even as someone, a former law enforcement person, I fear for him. What you said in your book in chapter 8 was shocking to me. You wrote, "Let's be honest, facts don't lie. No one can argue away the data that clearly shows that African Americans account for a wildly disproportionate number of arrests, street stops, use of force incidents, incarcerations, and other measurable events within our criminal justice system." You understand why that's a fact, because they are disproportionately stopped and arrested and incarcerated simply because they are Black. As a law enforcement officer, you do understand that, don't you?
I do understand the disproportionality, but I think there's just so many factors that go into it. One of those things is the core of the problem that I see is concentrated poverty. That is, it's the outcropping of failed policies trying to right the wrongs of past decades, but what we have is concentrated poverty, which breeds hopelessness.
Racism plays a little. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But it's on you, babe.
Oh, we're out of time. We're out of time. I wish we had more.
I do too.
To speak with you, but thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Thanks to former Chief Tom Jackson. His book, Policing Ferguson, Policing America, What Really Happened and What the Country Can Learn from It, is available now. We'll be right back.